Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Why, hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. In case you haven't checked it out, do check out our revamped evolutionaryenergyarts.com. This is our website, and thank you, Ellie, again for redoing it. You could learn more about who we are and some of the people that we've worked with. We've literally worked on hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And I always like to say on every continent except for Antarctica.
And we are waiting.
Yes. And who will be the first from Antarctica? This was our exclusive Patreon yesterday. Yeah, the biggest crime ever committed on humanity is being unraveled. And I should probably really term that in this particular generation, this particular era, because, again, history tends to repeat itself. And so we see nearly 450 million people warned to prepare for war with 72-hour survival kits. 72 hours. There was somebody making a note of that 72 and the symbolic nature. Today is 27th, by the way. We'll see if anything happens today. We'll see if anything happens in the next 72 hours. And, again, there are those that think it's all just for the loosh. It's all for just the fear. But, we have seen World War I, we have seen World War II, we have seen a lot of different things over the course of time that did manifest.
Well, we have astrological planets, things moving into alignment too, that might bring support of this, what we see here on the screen. So that's what I look for. If I see a headline, that's one thing. But then when I start seeing the planets and the planets are lining up as well, then it's like, hey, there could be something here.
So just to go on with that thought about the 72, everybody in the EU has been told to pack a kit that will help them survive for 3 days in case of war or natural disaster. 3 24-hour time periods is the 72. There's this symbolism and a ritualistic way that is always coming up, and I know most of you guys absolutely get this. This advice issued to nearly 500 million people across 27 countries. 27 countries, put those numbers in reverse order, you have 72 again. Now, 9 is completion numerologically. That means something is done. Which in numerology, you keep adding the numbers till you get to a single number, or you might get to a master number like 11, and decipher what the information is given. Everything in this world is really, it's telegraphed. It's telegraphed way ahead of time for those people that understand it. And, this is part of the natural matrix, and then there's the dark matrix within the natural matrix. And I think back to my childhood when people didn't even know what a matrix was, because we never used that term until the movie The Matrix came out, basically giving us what some people would say is just simply the Buddhist reality of things, that all this is really an illusion. It's a holograph. It's a drama being played out from a higher dimension, so to speak, and one in which it's up to us to decipher what is really happening here with all this symbolism.
That's kind of the way I look at these things. I look at the article, I look for the numbers, because I know it all has higher meaning. And once you are awake, you do tend to look at that. And then when you're awake also, you can never go back to sleep as much as you might want to, as much as frustrating as all of this can be. It's like you can never go back to sleep.
Yeah, the emergency kits should allow people to last for 3 days. Oh, then that gets us thinking about the 3 days of darkness. Now, what is really the 3 days of darkness? As we're going off on tangents here. But anyway, I think it's important to do the tangent exploration because, again, with everything being symbolic and there's a lot of things hidden from plain sight for those that will just glance over, too busy to look, too busy to pay attention. That's what, again, the entirety of what we call the dark matrix is counting on. And then you get those that are awake and recognize what's happening. But you will have many people that will say nothing ever really happens. This is just all done for the loosh. And again, I say look back to history. Nothing may have happened in your backyard, but it does happen on the whole. I mean, obviously, Iraq has gone through 2 wars, since 2000. And, the turn of the century, you had Bush's one, the first Bush, then the second Bush, then you had 9/11, then you have Afghanistan. Syria has fallen into chaos. Every country that was listed on by Wesley Clark has seen war except for Iran, and Iran is where all eyes are kind of pointing to and wondering, is when does that kick off? Because that will surely be the line that shouldn't be crossed and send us off into that WW3, one of the last cards that the dark control system has left to play. So, again, they give you these little notices. Is this just for Loosh? Well, again, things tend to manifest slower than people expect, and that can make you, apt to not respond.
Yeah, it really can. So I don't know. Just have your things ready, because you don't know what you don't know until the thing is right there.
So again, this is directed towards the EU, the European Union. 3-day emergency kits should include water, non-perishable food, necessary medicines, battery-powered radio, torch, cash, identity documents, a first aid kit, a Swiss Army knife, clothing, toiletries, bottled water, portable chargers, etc. Again, natural disasters, climate disasters is the term they use there, pandemics and cyber threats. There's a lot of different possibilities that can emerge. It's a good idea to always be as prepared as possible. Here you have EU Commissioner Hajja Lahib announcing the preparedness strategy for World War III with Russia. Yeah, we don't want war with Russia. Why do they seem so obsessed with war with Russia? Again, it's the labels that separate us. It's all these labels. There's no more powerful tool than a label in order to create division and separation. If we all just viewed each other from a more symbiotic point of view and recognize that we're all just individual cells in the earth as a larger entity.
We're a reflection of each other. And if you watch the people that you're close to, you can see that this is you. There's things in other people, whoever is in your sphere of influence, there's a reflection there, and there's something to learn there. And if we all knew that on a very deep level, like, this is all about connection and love and learning about ourselves and source learning about itself. That's just not the common theme that goes through people's minds. But if we knew the truth, and if everyone knew that, then I think that would be significant.
So, here you have, I think it's interesting, the survival bag, her glasses, so you can see what's happening, waterproofed items for your papers, so, you don't lose critical paper, identity, etc., etc. A little light to see in the darkness, water is life, Swiss Army knife, again, your medications, something to eat, and credit card, charger, and then a bit of distraction with playing cards. She's got the Joker right there. That's interesting, is it not? Again, the symbolism is always there, and they always make everything, everything is done and scripted with the symbolism always in mind.
Oh, yeah, and the black and white checkers and stuff,
Yeah, black and white checkers. So 3 days of darkness, it gets me thinking really about that, 72 hours, 3 days. But again, is it just simply 3 days of internet being down for most people? It could be something like that. That would throw the entire world into chaos. So, I mean, if it was, just say a blackout throughout the entirety of the EU, or potentially EU and US and allies, my gosh, that would just cause such a societal disruption like we've never seen.
It could be definitely a problem, and it would be the beginnings, though, of a big change. So I try to keep my head pointed at, there's got to be a silver lining, and we could definitely use change. I just, this wouldn't be the most pleasant way to have it.
No, and the reality is they don't want to keep the system dark and out for a long period of time. It is how we are controlled, primarily through, again, everything to do with the technology. Now, I've noticed a ton of glitches. Have you guys noticed any glitches? Yesterday, I had so many people. The video we put out yesterday only had like 18 comments, but I had like 18 people say, I keep getting my comments erased. I mean, people, are letting us know, I can't comment on your video. That's because, again, when you comment, it boosts it in the algorithms. We've been live and see 215 people watching us, and all of a sudden it drops down to like 108, and then it goes up to 172, then immediately drops down to like 85. Everything you see is an illusion. It's all an illusion. And again, so much of it, the monetary system is an agreed upon illusion. I think it's important to recognize this is an article about the mechanics of silver price suppression. Suppression. Who is suppressing the price of silver? Silver should be so many times higher than it is. Our Dr. Joe knows more about the financial side of things than Cindy and I. But again, he's been saying, as well as so many others, that they expect the price at some point in time to just go through the roof. Well, this article is saying, and this is authored by Jesse Colombo via the Bubble report, and that bubble is going to burst at some point in time. Who is suppressing it is the biggest banks. J.P. Morgan Chase, UBS, HSBC, Goldman Sachs, etc. They've all been found guilty of manipulating precious metal markets, particularly gold and silver. Now, one of the takeaways that I wanted to get to is over here. Many people say, "Well, I'm diversified, right? I have silver, but you have paper that says that you have silver. If you have paper that says that you have silver, you have paper. You don't have silver." So, the ratio of paper silver to physical silver is an astonishing 378 to 1. If the system collapses, paper might be good for wiping your butt, and that's about it.
And that's a maybe.
Yeah, because, again, you don't know where it's been.
You don't know where that paper has been, or you just don't know things.
No, absolutely. So, recognize that everything in the system is very, very fragile. Tangible assets are always a good thing to have, and yes, be diversified as best as you can. We know, and we're doing ourselves more research down the crypto side of things. As some have said that crypto could be perhaps a way out of the system. Now, I'm always very, very hesitant. I'm just an old-fashioned guy in many ways. I'm not the best with the computer. I'm not the best with technology. I like to root and ground myself more in the material world. Yet, I do appreciate technology in many ways. I have a positive grid Spark, which is a really cool little, very cheap, but yet AI driven amplifier that can simulate so many different sounds in this one little box that didn't cost very much compared to all the equipment you could have of the older technology. And so I appreciate it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. Yet again, I recognize that the technology is being used to hook us in. It's like, you're a fish hooked on the line. So they keep rolling you in. They got to let you go a little bit. They can't just yank and pull all the way in, or the fish will, get off the hook. They have to let you roam free a little bit and then try to pull you back in. And this is what they're doing. So I would just say, basically diversify and do deep research yourself.
Well, that research is so critical that you do for yourself, because you're going to also want to feel your way forward. It's important to look at these things from a non-emotional standpoint, but it's also important to listen to that tug and pull inside to say, hey, maybe I need to go down this road, and it's okay. I think one things that we have talked about on this planet is never put yourself in a box and just say, okay, this thing is not true. You always want to remain teachable. You always want to remain in a position where you can learn more things. So maybe we've been put in one box after the other, and if there's one thing I've learned, don't think that you know everything. Once that glass is full, you can never, there can be no more new water going in it. So you have to just keep yourself open.
Yes, absolutely. As you're looking at the statement that Putin will die soon, so says Zelensky in a blunt assessment. Well, saying, hey, guess how old? 72! Wait a minute. He made this statement, 72-year-old is increasingly aware of his mortality. Can you see that there's some sort of code here being given? This, to me, is a message. This is how these secret societies communicate amongst themselves in an obvious, but not so obvious manner. And so there's something that is going to be triggered. Now, this is what we're talking about, the economic and the war, because I do feel that they go hand in hand. And I do think that, both things are scheduled for this year, 2025. Again, the movie They Live, it telegraphed it all those years ago with, well, the year 2025 is the year it all happens. It's right in the movie They Live. And, oh, man, we're going to do another one on Arts, touching on some other deep underground things that are going on. And, again, there's exclusives on Patreon. Usually about every 2.5 days is what it averages out to, a Patreon exclusive. So, here you go. 72-year-old is increasingly aware of his mortality. There's something cooking, guys. Something is brewing. And I think, again, a lot of good-hearted people will have the opinion that this is nothing but for loosh. But at the same time, we've seen things that we haven't seen in the past in like the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, things have gone to a different level. Like Cindy and I, we would normally, back in the old days, when we go in and do our food shopping, as we had to drive 70 miles to the grocery store. We literally had to drive 70 miles to the grocery store. We would stop at either an Indian restaurant or a Thai restaurant, but now we don't eat anything that anybody else cooks because we don't trust it. And that's, you could say, well, you're a little paranoid. Well, look at yesterday's Patreon video. There's reasons to be paranoid, and that's the thing to realize. Man, you have to be very careful of everything you do. Now, it's not living in fear. I view it as being prepared. Because honestly, I don't really feel much fear on a regular basis. In fact, quite the opposite. I recognize that we are eternal spiritual beings having this temporary experience as a human at the turning of an age. Meanwhile, you have WEF, this is from Jim Ferguson, WEF globalist Mark Carney caught using Bermuda tax havens while preaching sustainability. Yes, Mark Carney, former Bank of Canada governor, WEF insider, climate finance crusader, caught funneling green fund investments through Bermuda, one of the world's most notorious tax shelters, Cayman Islands too. So here you go. While lecturing Canadians on fiscal responsibility and carbon footprints, his Brookfield funds were busy dodging taxes and courting elite investors offshore. Yeah, they are most definitely do as we say, not as we do, because they're part of the club. There's a big club out there, and the club has many, many different branches. Again, you get rid of Trudeau, and here is Mark Carney. And, what are you really getting? I mean, does he give a good speech? Does he talk clearly? The last time I heard that phrase, I think I was playing Stairway to Heaven backwards.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, right? I mean, seriously. And everybody's talking about this. What the heck was he saying? It's like, while he's speaking French, is he speaking Inuit? Yeah, they will no longer be able to hold their form. no longer be able to hold their form. By the way, Alberta lawyer, we want out. We want to be independent from the WF-controlled Canadian government. Alberta constitutional lawyer Jeffrey Rath is leading a direct challenge to Trudeau's regime, Trudeau or Carney or what have you. And, again, I think that there's nothing you can do to stop the disintegration of this dark control matrix. It's doomed. It's absolutely doomed. And I think it's just like this. You'll have states leaving a union. You'll have the disintegration of the EU. That's coming. I mean, of course, the UK and Brexit and everything, but the EU will break up into smaller pieces once the war starts, because I do think they will start the war. I think you're going to see many people just say that they are totally done. And ultimately what will happen, I think the people, I think people are going to lay down their guns and not point them at each other. And instead, I think that the elite, the power brokers, they're the ones that are going to be removed from power. And yet, look carefully at what you're putting into your body.
That's just as gross.
Yeah, there's, we got a watermelon last year that was kind of like this. There's dyes injected in what you might think is a steak, or, if it's, could be a watermelon. There's all sorts of things entering, the food situation. You gotta be really careful about what you put into your body at this point in time.
And keep an eye out for who's entertaining who.
Yeah, again, the puppet masters, there are real puppet masters, and they are playing humanity. They've always been playing humanity. The thing is, the light from source and the real creator, because there is a creator to all this, that light is shining through. This is why they fear the light. They cannot tolerate the light. And in fact, we will have another Patreon exclusive going into depth a little bit more on why each yuga is different, and how the very makeup of the physical universe itself literally changes with each yuga. And we've touched on that before, and we'll go into more depth with that in future videos as we get more information. It is absolutely being revealed for what it is, and yet you still have people that will not dare to expand their consciousness and their mind, and just be fearful and not be able to handle the reality that becomes apparent to all that will open up their eyes and go ahead and actually look.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.